Hi guys, I am going to be talking about communication and conflict, and the piece that I'm going to be talking about is R&R. Now you might be thinking, are you talking about rest and relaxation when you talk about conflict? And no, I'm actually going to be talking about in the midst of conflict, we have a choice to make. Do I want to respond or react? Oftentimes when I'm working with couples in the therapy room, they really want to learn how to be able to express themselves or how they can stay in kind of a heated discussion without it getting to a point where they're really yelling or saying mean things, or when they've totally kind of just shut down and stopped talking to each other. So what I tell them is when they start this discussion, if they can just say, do I want to respond or react? In a reaction, it's usually it's a kind of an impulsive, just saying what's right on your mind at the tip of your tongue, and usually it's hurtful words, or it's put downs, or it's name callings, or it's anything you want to say that kind of like gets your partner. It's a way that really just ups the ante in terms of criticizing your partner or just heating up the fight. So the other thing is, do I want to respond? Now, a response is something that's more thoughtful. It's more kind of in a nonverbal way saying, I'm really willing to work on this with you, or I really want to try and understand where you're coming from. Sometimes a response is just to stop and pause and take a deep breath instead of just jumping to what you want to say, because again, that would be a reaction. I think it's important to know that in the midst of an argument, you can very quickly kind of get flooded with emotions or with thoughts, and that's why sometimes couples just react in very hurtful or mean ways. Your blood's boiling and you really want to get your point across, and you don't feel like your partner is listening or hearing you, and you're also upset. And so you've really got to pay attention to how you're feeling. And you're going to say, well, I'm really mad, Monica. And yes, you are. But usually when you're really getting upset, you're often, like I said before, you're flooded. So you're already kind of in the midst of not thinking very clearly, and you're becoming very defensive. And you're also going into fight or flight. When you go into fight or flight, you typically lose peripheral vision. You lose the ability to want to empathize or compromise. And you don't listen. You're not hearing. You're really in a place of, I'm either going to keep fighting and it's going to elevate, or you are getting ready to check out and run. Either way isn't good, and it really doesn't help you stay in the midst of conflict. So again, when you have started conflict, or when your partner's kind of, when you're kind of starting to really get into that heated discussion, stop, take a deep breath, and say, I need a break. I need to cool off. Oh my, we need to start over again. You use kind of some of those I statements as opposed to, you. And that, the minute I say you're doing this, or you're being an asshole, or you're not hearing me, my partner's automatically going to get defensive and react in that way. So I want you to remember a few key steps that I've just gone through. In the midst of conflict, or when you can start to feel yourself getting really elevated or upset, stop and pause. And I know that can be really, really hard, especially when you're upset. But if you stop and pause, you are actually taking a minute to think about how you want to respond to your partner as opposed to react. And in some ways, you're really making that commitment to the relationship to say, we're in this together, we're willing to work through this together, even when you're in the midst of conflict. Remember, one of the key components to making a relationship work or working together is understanding and the willingness to go through the hard times together. What works in a relationship isn't how similar you are, but how you work through those differences. So remember, in the midst of conflict, do I want to react or do I want to respond? Remember, a response is stop, is you take a deep breath. You find some way to say to one another, hey, I'm feeling flooded, or I am really in the midst of wanting to scream. I need to take a break. I will come back. Taking a break isn't you're abandoning each other, or that you're not going to come back and talk about what's happened. It's you're honoring the relationship, you're honoring the agreements that you don't want to have conflict all the time. Taking a break is really saying, hey, I've got to take some time, whether it's 15 minutes or 30 minutes, to cool off and really think about what I want to say, what I need you to hear, what I want you to understand, in order for us to work through this problem together. All right, so I hope that this is helpful. This is a quick tip. Again, remember, when you're starting to feel frustrated, stop, take a deep breath, and say, do I want to respond or react? And I hope the answer is, I want to respond, which means you're willing to connect to your partner, you're willing to work through whatever the heated discussion is in order to find some sort of resolution. And sometimes a resolution is you're going to agree to disagree for right now and come back to it at a different time. Remember, guys, if you're taking a break or you agree to disagree, you are actually going to come back and talk about what's happened. All right? Have a good one. And remember, R&R.